Hi, in today's video, we're going to be talking about campfire safety. Stay tuned. You know, preventing forest fires is always an important subject to be aware of, but it hit home yesterday. Yesterday I was working around camp and I looked up and there was smoke billowing over the ridge to the north of me. Well, I'm up in the high mountains at about 9,000 feet. We're outside of telephone range and internet range. There was no way other than my ham radio to be able to find out anything. So I jumped on the radio and I was lucky enough to speak with a camper that was camping several miles to the north of me. And so I was talking to him and he said, yes, there is a fire burning. It was just barely to the north of him. And that he told me that he was packing up because he was moving out. The fire was that close to him. Now, I'm about 5 miles to the south of where the fire was burning, but I didn't know which way the fire would grow. And if you've watched the news, you do know how fast a raging wildfire can travel. So I made a decision. I was going to pack up and be ready to go in a moment's notice, so that if the fire got closer or if I was told by the Forest Service I needed to leave and leave now, that I'd be ready. So I, in haste, packed everything up, kind of threw things in the back of the truck and got the trailer as close to being ready to pull out as I could. Now, good news is the fire service did a good job in containing the fire. As I was packing up, I could see fire tanker planes and helicopters going overhead. I could see the main highway from here, and I could see water trucks going up the highway. Well, anyway, long story short, it's never a bad time to talk about fire safety. There's so many things that we can do to prevent forest fires from happening, but in my case, yesterday, it hit home. This really did affect me, so I thought I'd share this with you. You know, wildfires can start for many different reasons. It's not just campfires that can start a raging wildfire. There are several other things to be aware of. You know that your safety chains on your trailer, if they're dragging on the pavement, can light a spark. If you're smoking and you're driving, ashing out the window can leave a spark that can start a raging forest fire. When it's high fire danger, target practicing. You know, if a steel bullet hits a rock, it's just like flint and steel. It creates a spark that can catch and start a fire. Another thing to be aware of is that if you've been driving and you're going down a dirt road or whatever, and you park in long, dry, tall grass, that the exhaust components under your car are hot enough to start a raging forest fire. But today's video, we're going to be focusing on the campfire. The campfire is one of those things that we have, as campers, the most control of. And so it's the campfire that I'll be focusing on today, how to use your campfire safely to make sure we don't start a forest fire. Hi, if we haven't met yet, I'm John with Let's Go Now Adventures. And whether you're into tent camping or RV camping, we create videos that help you have a better camping experience. So let's get started with today's topic. So if you're camping in a regular campground, use the fire pit provided. If you're camping like we do a lot of times, and we're camping in a dispersed situation where there's no developed fire pit, make sure you build your own. Use some rocks, create a ring so that you can put your fire in that. You know, one thing we do sometimes is we have a galvanized steel bucket that we take with us, and we'll use that many times, and you may have seen that in some of our videos. We actually build our fire inside of this steel galvanized bucket. What you'll want to do is look for a space that's clear of vegetation, anything that might catch fire. Now, rather than clearing vegetation and removing the vegetation, find some place that doesn't have any vegetation to begin with. So when selecting where to build your fire pit, look around to see if a fire pit hasn't existed in the past. Look for a burn scar or maybe a partially erected fire pit with rocks. The reason is we'll want to build our fire pit in that same spot. Rather than creating another burn scar, we'll use one that's been made in the past. We'll just add to that or build that one back up. When selecting where to build your campfire, make sure you always look up. Look up to see if there are any overhanging branches. Any overhanging branches that could catch fire, if there are any dry pine needles or leaves. When building your campfire, only build a fire that's big enough for what you need. If it's just comfort, a medium-sized fire is just as effective as a large burning bonfire. The thing with the smaller fire is that you have more control over it and it's easier to put out. One of the things you'll want to do is have a shovel and water near your fire so that if necessary, you can put your fire out at any time. So last but not least, don't leave your fire unattended. Make sure there's always a designated adult there to supervise the fire. If you're going to leave the fire, make sure the fire is completely out. The key to fire safety, if you're going to enjoy a good campfire, is make sure when you're done that the campfire's out. So how do you know when a campfire is completely out? The answer is, it's cool enough to touch. So how do we do that? So when you're done with your campfire, what you want to do first is take a tool, usually a shovel, and spread the logs out through the entire pit area. So spread them out so that they no longer feed off of each other. Next, douse those embers and those logs with water. You'll see steam coming off. You'll see how hot that fire actually is. After you've put plenty of water on, take your shovel and stir the dirt, the water, and the burning logs and embers to make sure that they go out. Now, give it a little bit of time. Put your hand close. If you can still feel heat coming off of the rocks on the outside of your fire pit or off of any of the logs that are in your fire pit, then we just do the whole process one more time. We'll separate, maybe scrape the logs so that the embers fall off and fall into the bottom of the pit. Then douse with water again and stir. Give it a little bit of time. Now you can feel. So the way you know that the fire's completely out is if it's cool enough to touch. Do a spot check. Look around the campfire area to make sure some embers or coals didn't get outside the firing that would also need to be put out. Thank you for watching the video today. I hope you found some value and some ideas that you can put into practice, or just reminders of things that you know that you just need to do to help prevent forest fires. You know, if you found value, please give us a big thumbs up. It really does help. And make sure you do hit subscribe and the little bell next to it so that you're notified when we release other camping related videos. And you know, because you're a camping enthusiast, we'd love to have you join our Facebook group. It's called Adventures Campfire Connection. I'll leave a little link to it in the description below. You just go there and ask to join. We'd love to have you there. And it's where we share ideas, thoughts, discussions about all things camping. I'm John with Let's Go Now Adventures, and I'll see you on the next adventure.